My man. I'm here basically because I feel probably the most confident I've ever felt in a Super Bowl bet. And you know who I am. I'm not a guy that likes to boast and brag and put myself on the line. Well, especially in horse racing, but in football, I feel like there's no odds that are going to be changed here. But man, I feel really freaking good about it this year. How do you feel?
Well, hold on. Let's not let the tail wag the dog here. Um, if I'm hearing, am I hearing this correctly? This is coming from the same man who smoked some pretty amazing calls in the past, circa I don't know, Packers over the Falcons. What was that? A 33 to
Hmm.
1 bomb? How
Yep,
about
big
Gi-
shot.
how about Giants versus New England 25 to 1? Are you telling me
Yeah,
this is the same man who's saying this now?
well, no, I've got. I mean, I say that, and you've crushed it. In the last, 5, 10 Super Bowls, you've had some good calls. Yeah, that's a little prehistoric, but I must say that those were epic, and I didn't have as much money as I have now. But yeah, the Packers were going into the Super Bowl. They weren't even in the playoffs yet, and I knew they had to win 2 games, and they could then go play Michael Vick, who I thought was vulnerable, and then I didn't like the Steelers as much. So that was a great call. And then also the Giants after they played that last game and they beat the Patriots before they went into the Super Bowl or into the playoffs. I felt like they had enough of a path, and I had them at about 10, and they were 25. So yeah, man, I've got a track record. I've had the last couple Super Bowls as well. I like the Chiefs. I actually liked the Chiefs a lot when they were down against the Niners a couple years ago. Not last year, but the years before when you can get almost 3 or 4 to 1 in the middle of the Super Bowl. So anyway, we take this game serious. We're in it, and now that the racing scene has kind of dried up a bit, I do want to look at some of these opportunities. And I'm telling you, in the last 10 years, man, this is one of the best Super Bowls to bet I've ever seen. And for me, I'm looking at making a life-changing score. So I'm not messing around. And there's about 3 bets that I really want to get into. But just straight out of the gate, if the Super Bowl were played 3 times, I do believe the Eagles would win at least twice. If it was played 10 times, I think they could win as high as 7. And I've got so
Interesting.
many factors into it, man. I've got so many things that I've thought about. I'm trying to think about the best way to break it down, and then we'll jump around in some other areas of this postseason. But I think the first place to start is what happened 2 years ago. And when you remember that game, Jalen Hurts played out of his mind. And I remember I liked the Eagles that year. And I remember you liked the Chiefs, and you switched it at the end. And we weren't betting money, but we take this serious, so our words are honor. But in that context, the Eagles had one of the best, pressure defenses. Their defensive line, they were in the top 1 or 2 in sacks. And I have a little conspiracy theory about that game. It's a little weird, but honestly, the field was soggy, and I don't understand in this day and age in an Arizona situation when I know they're bringing a field or whatever they're doing, but to overwater the game. A little conspiracy in me says, okay, Pat Mahomes has a high ankle sprain. Maybe, just maybe, that was going to make it a little easier on him when he's running around because no one can go full speed. And most importantly, the Eagles had 0 sacks in that game. And one of the main reasons I think was because they had to change their cleats. They couldn't get a push off the line. So that was an interesting error. And then Hurts fumbled. If you remember, that went to that pick six. So other than that play, there was a lot of situations where it still felt like the Eagles were going to win. They played a great game and they lost. But it wasn't due to Hurts. I mean, you could blame it on the fumble, but to me, he excelled at a high level. And one of the things you always want to kind of look at these matchups, and sometimes it can be a deep mental um, what I want to call it, like an interference pattern or a distraction, an emotional impediment. I have no qualms whatsoever about Hurts coming for revenge in the Super Bowl. A lot of times I'm scary, right? I'm scared of that. Like with the Bills, that's why I did not like the Bills against the Ravens or the Chiefs this year, especially the Chiefs. And I was absolutely right about that. And even last year. And there's a lot more to it than that. But what I'm saying is that emotional component is important. Hurts is coming into this game probably about as stoic as I've ever seen him. Do you agree with that? Like how his demeanor is just so calm and cool and collected?
Yeah, I think that's his only gear though. That's I don't think I've ever seen him anything other than that. Going back to Alabama, but no, I mean, I would say I could agree that yeah, there might be an extra layer to it. There's a certain density to it for sure.
I mean, I've seen, I study patterns, right? Like in all aspects of my life. It helps me in love and friendships and family, deciding, who's going to be in my life, who's not going to be in my life, and reading between the lines, the nonverbal, the things that people don't say, things that people are afraid to say. And, there's actually more truth revealed when people don't have courage to speak up in the moment or to address hard, courageous conversations. And Jalen Hurts has handled himself in so many fantastic ways. And even through the AJ Brown stuff, he's not over trying to hype up the relationship. He's not over hyping up his relationship with his coach earlier in the season too. He's just, I want to win, And I saw some of his press conferences even after the Super Bowl. I loved just the way he's team only. They're team only. They're unselfish. They don't care. They just want to win. But back to the Super Bowl a couple years ago, like you said, he was a very similar statue of himself then, or then as he is now. There's just like a part of his personality that is so confident, and mix in the revenge factor, because I know if they felt that they should have won that game and they didn't. Um, there's no um, there's no stopping them, and it's kind of interesting how people talk about this in the media. Like you'll see all these top sports commentators. Oh, Philly's the better team. They have the better roster. They have like 12 Pro Bowlers. They're
Mhm.
beasts. They're just unhuman, or alien in their size. And I mean, who can do the tush push, right? They're the only ones that can really execute it. And they've had there's a little bit of injury at the up front, but I think it's fine based on the reports. But provided that all these guys are sound and healthy and nobody gets hurt in the game. And so let me preface this: if a team has two turnovers on either side, I don't think I can claim a victory or claim a loss. It's like you're talking ceteris paribus, basically. Everything's normal, things are as they are, and then it comes down to like a few plays. And I don't see um, really any chinks in the Eagles' armor. I think it's a very well balanced team. Saquon, as we both talked about, and props to you. Like earlier this season, when we did our fantasy podcast, how you basically called it. You said, yeah, you would take him in the first round, and he was the guy. And there's not a lot of people that would agree with you at the time. Now, I thought he was probably the second or third best running back, but dude, you were all over that guy, and I, I I really think you deserve a lot of credit for that, because nobody really saw that coming in the fantasy football world. But that is still, a challenge, because Spags doesn't really give up 100-yard rushers, but in kind of breaking this thing down, and I want to get nitty and gritty, dude. Like, Mixon had 80 something yards, um, and then you saw Cook go off too for 70 something, and he could run. And we knew that. We talked about this. We talked about how we thought that the Chiefs were vulnerable against the run, and the Chiefs or the Bills got in their own way. Um, but to me, I can't see them. I see them can maybe containing Barkley a little bit, but I don't know if Barkley's going to go ham. But I will say the running game's unstoppable, and this whole notion of Jalen Hurts being kind of like, I don't know, tier 2, tier 3 in some people's camps. He hasn't really done anything wrong. Like, I mean, his team last year had no defense. So, and again, they did the right things in the offseason to bring together this defense with these, younger corners and everything. So there's so much confidence brewing from them. If you look at it in the postseason, I think he's got something like six or seven comebacks not in in just regular season comebacks. Sorry, he hasn't been in the postseason that much. But you look at that compared to, I think he's got about 12. He's got 12 comebacks, in games. Mahomes has, I think, something like close to 25, 26, maybe 28, and Brady's got 50. So to give you an idea, and Hertz has been in the league about half as much time as Mahomes. So and Mahomes has been in the league half as much time as Brady. So they're all kind of on the same trajectory of awesomeness when it comes to crunch time and trying to win in the end. So let's just think about the criteria for making a great bet, right? First off, quarterback position. Is there a knock on Hurts in your eyes? I mean, the guy's healthy again. He can run. He can. I know he's not as good in between the numbers in the middle of the field, but like he can throw the ball deep, and I think that's a big advantage here in this situation, because Mahomes, I don't know if you know this, but he's like the worst quarterback in the NFL throwing the ball over 20 yards.
Okay, let me let me
Literally
let me
the
let
worst.
me ask you something. Let me ask you something. So to that point you just made about both, who do you trust?
So it's kind of like, if you're dating, how do you choose between two amazing people if you're a monogamous person? I I trust them both.
Okay,
So the
I do
thing
too.
is that so yeah, this is a knock on Mahomes, and I'm going to get into Mahomes. They're vulnerable, and the reason they're vulnerable too is because Mahomes. You look at this season. Is this Chiefs team that's scraped by, getting lucky blocking field goals, getting lucky winning at the end of the game, turnovers happening in their favor. Sometimes they cause them, but like even the Bills game, it kind of felt like the Bills were going to win that game, and it's a strange what, 17 games in a row they have won less than, one score. There's not separation there. So to me, this is like a
Mhm.
horse that's winning kind of on a lone F lead, which means they get brave a little bit, and yeah, they fight off, and they have the mustard at the end. But I can't see a separation to say the Chiefs are a three time Super Bowl team. Like the Chiefs are not, to me, are nowhere near the Niners or the Cowboys of the past, or even the Patriots, the old Patriots team that went undefeated. They're not even there. Like to me, there's a jump down. So the Chiefs have done everything right though. Like to your point, who do you trust? Situational football. The Chiefs find a way. I always revere that and respect it. But to me, in this context, if they go back and forth, yeah, and if the Chiefs have the ball last and it's the end of the game with 30 seconds, hey, I'm going to be nervous. Now, I just don't think it's going to happen like that. I do think that the Eagles are going to come out. I think I would be surprised if they defer. I think if they win the toss, I think they'll go down the field and try to flex their mojo. Um, they're just bigger men. Kind of goes back to when we were thinking about the Bills versus or the Ravens versus the Bills. The Ravens were bigger. And unfortunately, Lamar had a couple mistakes, and then there's a couple of Andrews had a couple hiccups. But on paper, I think there's a reason why the Bills were underdogs. And in this case, I look at a better a better balanced team, a quarterback that's just a notch below, that's with something to prove with Hurts. Mahomes has nothing to prove. Like he's done it, and he's a little cocky. Do you think he's a little potentially looking at this as like, yeah, we got this. We're the Chiefs. To me, there's not the hunger like that they would have had in the repeat, or obviously coming back off of a loss from the previous year. There's just not the drive. So I look at the emotional state of the Chiefs and I say, yeah, they're happy, they're calm, they're cool, they're not, there's no pressure on them. I mean, there is, okay, sorry, there is pressure, there is some pressure, but there's always pressure in this situation. But to me, the Eagles come in, everyone's kind of doubting them, saying the Chiefs has got this. Like I would much rather be on that side of the coin. So mentally, emotionally, I feel like the Eagles have every reason to believe that they're going to win this game. They have, proven in the past that they can beat with them 2 years ago. This whole Nagy versus Vic Fangio thing is so interesting when they used to play with each other or coached on the same team with the Bears.
Mm.
And, it's like, I mean, yes, let's face it, the Chiefs have three head coaches basically, which is an advantage. Do you have any thoughts on that with like the Nagy versus Vic Fangio thing? Do you think there's going to be any edge one way or the other? I mean, Vic's older, so I'm sure that could help him, but I'm sure they've shared a lot of information, a lot of intel together.
I mean, my insight is this: Vic's on a heater this year. He's on a heater. He is every bit the reason that that defense is what it is. And do I want to bet against him right now? Nope, nope. I mean, to your point that the Chiefs have been winning on a wing and a prayer, not convincingly, and certainly not an offensive juggernaut. It's not our father's Chiefs. So I mean, I dance with the girl that brung me. I mean, Vic's the one. So yeah, for me, he gets my vote.
I like I like the way that they handled the Commanders game, and we were talking. I not to toot my own horn, but I mentioned, God, almost 5, 6 weeks ago that I thought the Eagles were the team this year for the Super Bowl because I kind of sought out. I thought to myself, okay, well, the Ravens and the Bills will probably play each other. The Chiefs have home field locked up, so that's going to be a hard 50-50 coin flip. And then the team that wins that game is going to have an emotional uplift and going to have to find it again going up against, the Chiefs, a team that has beat both those teams. So to me, that's why it was a real simple Eagles versus Chiefs Super Bowl like 5, 6 weeks ago. And I was talking to a lot of my friends in Europe about that. But I really felt that the Eagles were the team to win just based on value, and I did that other YouTube short about it, and I really felt like the Lions had a lot of pressure on them, especially since they didn't have the defense. But I really like the improvement of the Eagles too, the way they've gone from game to game. And the snow game you can kind of toss, and I remember explaining some some comparisons between like a horse on an off track. You can't really judge a team in that context. It's very and obviously the Eagles are probably more of a cold weather team anyway than the Rams, which are more dome based. But to me, they could have lost that game too. It was close.
Yeah, it
You were
was.
you were on that too. You like the Rams, but the way they stepped up against the Commanders showed me like a spike. The way that they, again, everyone was doubting Hurts, his leg, his knee, and people were commenting that he can't throw the ball. I know that, but that was fair. But you're a little more of a conspiracy guy than me, and I felt like there's times where like you gotta go with the conspiracies, and maybe they were keeping their cards close to their chest because they didn't want people to think that he was banged up. But in actuality, I think from some of the reports that it showed that he was pretty good. But anyway, I like the way they contained Jaden Williams. Like I thought that the defense that they played against him was good enough. It wasn't outstanding, but it was good enough. And so to me, if you can hold him, and again, he ran for some yards and he's the best. But Mahomes has a few challenges. This offensive line, there's going to be some one-on-one matchups for the Eagles, and I mean Tooney and Williams or whatever. These guys are going to really, I think, have to man up. I mean, Carter's going to be double team for sure, but there's like that makes me nervous if I'm the Chiefs. I mean,
Yeah,
don't you agree that like
yeah.
seriously? Yeah. So when you look at things like that, you've got an offensive line for the Chiefs that's been, good enough. And Williams and Tooney are gonna go off against guys that can easily beat them. I don't know if Stangio is going to like pressure Mahomes a lot. Probably going to play a lot of zone like they've done all season. So they may have to switch to man, but I think they're going to stick with what's worked. I think they're going to try to win on grit and just like endurance. So for me, all star Philly defense, all star Philly offensive line. This is just it's pretty cut and dry, man. And I think that this is not an emotional thing. I've been thinking about this for 7 weeks. And in horse racing, you predict who's going to win the Breeders' Cup, and you think about the Derby, and think weeks and months ahead, and you start kind of looking at pace scenarios, and you start trying to map out energy distribution, which horses are coming into the race in the right way, and who's going to be overbet. But yeah, for me, I can't. I'm trying to think of the way that the Eagles lose this game. You know what I mean? Like, how would they lose this game? Like, the way they would lose the game is if Barkley was completely contained. Hurts is not able to throw the ball because he's getting a lot of pressure. And let's face it, Hurts when he drops back, he takes sacks. But that's what I like some of the time. Like there's a difference. Mahomes takes sacks that are a little uncomfortable. It kind of looks like, he's not as quick. And there's some people that like to call people dad runners, but he's not a dad runner, but he's not super nimble. But he got caught in that Bills game and then knocked him out of field goal range that one play. Like there's like Mahomes has, again, he has done everything right to win the game, but statistically, he can't throw the ball with these receivers, I should say, more than 20 yards. So they're not going to have big splash plays. They, I think he had, and you saw that worthy catch that was kind of like a prayer that I couldn't even believe he pulled it in and it hit the ground. Some people think it wasn't a catch, but without that catch, I don't know if the Chiefs win the game. And then other than that, Kareem Hunt made a few plays. It was good enough running the ball. So to me, like the Chiefs, the way they beat the Eagles is they run the ball a lot. They literally they get what's his face? Yeah, Hunt the ball like 10 maybe 15 times, and Pacheco here and there. You had that fumble that kind of screwed things up. But anyway, so I just yeah, and then they're gonna have to try to contain Hurts throwing the ball down the field, and AJ Brown one-on-one coverage. I mean, he's gonna have it all day long. So it's just a matter of time. And if the Eagles go up by like I don't know 7 points, maybe even more. Like I just don't see. I can't see a Chiefs comeback very easily. Now, if there's turnovers, I'm saying not crazy turnovers. I'm talking like ceteris paribus. But like in this case, if the Chiefs fall behind, they are going to have to grind. They can't go crazy like they used to. And there's that perception of the last couple Super Bowls, and everyone's thinking about that. Oh, it's Mahomes. He's going to find a way. This and that. He's hot and heavy, and this and that. And last year they didn't have as many tools either. But there's still that impression in the mind that people think that he can just do it all. And Andy Reid's great. But I mean, I think this whole Sirianni thing, he's focused. He trusts his players. He trusts Kellen Moore. Kellen Moore is very, very, very smart and very good at what he does. So to me, I just want to say that I in those contexts with that many favoring components to the Eagles, I don't see a reason why this is not like a 2-to-1 ratio. And mentally, spiritually, emotionally, physically, karmically, all these things add up for them too, getting a little bit further off. But I mean, I
Okay, so
just, yeah,
am I hearing you right? You're giving this one an A? That's the grade?
yeah, definitely an A. This is the best bet I've seen in 10 years in NFL football, in the Super Bowl particularly, and even you could even go further than that too.
So
You,
this is an A plus. This is an A plus.
yeah, I would say an A plus. Yeah.
Okay.
Um,
And
so
how often does an A plus come along?
oh my God, once every 10 years, something like that, 5, 10 years. And underdogs,
Okay.
just to remind you, underdogs in the Super Bowl 13-4 last, like last 20 years or 15, 17 years. They crack at 73% the last 23 years. They're good, man. So anyway, I just want to wrap up with a couple of other points on how to bet this thing. So for me, like I like to use the Kelly equation, which is a equation used to kind of maximize your profits. But basically, the way that works is you take like the odds of the team times the probability that you give them. So in this case, if you're going to get even money on the Eagles, and if I got them at 65%, it would just be 1 times 6 times 0.65, which is 0.65, and then you subtract the opportunity of the other team to win. So 0.65 minus 0.35 is zero point 0.3, and then you divide it by your odds, which is 1. So traditional Kelly would say bet 30% of your bankroll on this rate on this event. And so you usually take a quarter of Kelly, maybe something like that. So to me, betting 10 to 20% of your money on the Eagles is great. But if you're not somebody that's going to be betting big capital or anything like that, and again, this is me speaking about what I'm going to do. I feel this confident, and I don't do this, but I feel like if you're going to go to a Super Bowl party, hey, you want to know where I stand, at least because I feel that good. But the last two little bets I want to leave you with is one, the MVP bet. If you don't want to go heavy on the Eagles to win, you can bet Hurts at 380, maybe 350, so like a 7-2 shot. Because if they win, I think they're going to have to win through Hurts, either running the ball or throwing the ball. Barkley's going to be Barkley, but I don't know. I mean, I know everyone wants him to win MVP and maybe will. But to me, the more value is on the Hurts because you go against the grain a little bit.
Mhm.
And then the last kind of bets here that are a little more, maybe a little 10% of what I'm talking about here. So maybe 1% of your bankroll would be looking at an Eagles to win, minus 9.5. I think they win by 10 and you can get 4-1, sometimes 5-1 on that bet. That's pretty good. You can get them at 6 minus 5.5 too, at about 3-1. So those are some interesting stabs if you want to try to play a little bit of a long shot. But the other thing is if the Eagles go down in the game, if the Eagles go down by 7 or 10 points, that's when it's time to slam. You can get 3, 4-1. So anyway, I think that pretty much covers it for me, brother. But I just wanted to put that out there in the ether, and I feel like what do you give them if I'm at 65? What do you give them before we go?
57 and nah, I'll put him at I don't think I can go 60. 57 and a half.
57.5.
Mm-hmm.
Not too far off, but there's so you got value on them too a little bit. But this is like I said, I'm ultra confident. I just wanted to put it out there because I don't know the sports bettors. I'm actually doing this to try to help people, be very cautious when they bet. But this was really something I like. So anyway, this is one of those once in a lifetime bets for me. But thanks for giving me the chance to share my Jedi wisdom, brother. And we'll watch it and we'll have to compare notes and hopefully we'll pop some bottles, man.
Sounds good to me. Remember, folks, this is football. If you're not getting dirty, you're just not doing it right.
Yeah, I'm with that. It should be dirty, man. Let's have a dirty score for the Eagles.